With the federal government shutdown now in its fourth week, pollster Scott Rasmussen joins us live from Washington, D.C. And Scott, first of all, thank you for joining us. And what do the polls say about this shutdown?
Well, Brent, the first thing we see is that it's beginning to have a little bit of a wider impact. In the first week of the shutdown, only 6% of voters nationwide said they felt any personal impact. It grew to 12% last week, 15% now. Beyond that, though, really nothing has changed in the polls. By a 2-to-1 margin, voters are saying it's more important to end the shutdown than it is to get full funding for the wall. Republicans continue to say no, funding the wall is more important. Democrats and independents take the opposite view. And quite frankly, that's part of the reason we have a standoff. Both parties are appealing to their bases, to their supporters. There's no desire to reach out and compromise. Most voters figure this is going to last at least a few more weeks, maybe even several months.
So let's talk about the government workers who are directly impacted by this shutdown. What does your polling show about them?
You know, there's two groups of federal workers who are impacted by this shutdown. There's a group of essential employees, we just heard about them, some TSA workers and others, who are required by law to show up for work, but the government missed their paycheck, and they're not likely to have money for the next paycheck unless the shutdown is brought to an end. 78% of voters say something should be done. The law should be changed. If the government requires these people to show up for work, the government should be required to meet their paydays. And, you know, that's the way it would work for any private business. Now, there is a second group of workers who have been furloughed. You know, you might call it a temporary layoff. These people are not at work. And half of America's voters say now these folks should be encouraged to get a private sector job. So right now, the people that are creating the most concern for voters around the country are those workers who are being required to show up, do their jobs, and the government is not meeting its obligation in paying them.
Those workers who are deemed essential. Now, you also have some polling on whether people think the U.S. is on the right or the wrong track. Break that down for us.
Yeah, 42% of voters say things are going on the right track. We're heading in the right direction. 58% say we're not. Again, as you would expect, there is a partisan breakdown. Republicans, because their party controls the White House, are more optimistic than Democrats, much more optimistic than Democrats. Independents, somewhere in between. One of the things that strikes me as really interesting about this number, though, 42% say we're on the right track, but only 17%, only 1 out of 6 voters, say they trust the government to do the right thing most of the time. You know, with so little trust, I think what this tells us is people aren't looking to Washington to determine, to lead the nation, to say things are going in the right direction or not. They want the government to function. They want shutdowns to end. They want their political leaders to behave like grown-ups. But in terms of determining where the country is going, people continue to look to their communities, to their neighbors, to their employees, and to places away from official Washington.
Scott, we appreciate your insights. Scott Rasmussen reporting in Washington, D.C. Thank you.
Thank you.